to Oklahoma City because they're missing 3 starters, or do we truly need to balance it out because they were missing guys too?
I mean, Oklahoma City's been the better team the last 2 years. When I watch that game and I think about the ability to the Nuggets to win a championship, or more specifically, Eric, beat Oklahoma City in a 7-game series, how is Aaron Gordon going to stay healthy for 16 playoff wins? That's my biggest concern right now.
Right.
How is he going to stay healthy for an entire Oklahoma City series? Because if he can't, they can't beat him. They can't beat him. I don't know what it looks like when Christian Brown comes back. They should be better defensively on the perimeter. Their 3-point defense last night was atrocious. That was Nuggets from last season.
Yeah.
And, Jamal Murray never got going. He got his all-star thing, and he deserved it, but he had a tough night, and Jokic only attempted 9 field goals. So it's a little weird because Jokic is on a minutes restriction, but it never felt like Denver was going to win that game. But my bigger takeaway, Eric, how are they going to keep Gordon healthy for the playoffs? I mean, they're just going to have to keep him in bubble wrap and then cross your fingers when you get to late April, play the last few regular season games and just hope that he's healthy. Because he said something interesting in a Channel 9 interview. I don't know if you saw this.
I did.
Where he talked about, and this is so unfortunate, but how his brother's death has affected him physically. He's out of rhythm and his body, and he feels like his body's not right. And to his point, he's had 3 calf injuries and 3 hamstring injuries in 9 months. And so even if it's not that, if the science doesn't support that, if mentally he feels that way, it's clearly affecting him physically. And I pray for him because I know he feels just heartbroken and for a number of reasons and the loss of his brother. But on the basketball side is I don't know what that's going to look like. If they can't keep him healthy, they can't beat OKC in the playoffs. For me, I don't know how you feel.
Well, you can have Aaron Gordon back fully healthy, but you are not going to beat OKC if Jamal Murray and Jokic combined for 26 points. Even if Gordon is fantastic, you are not going to beat Oklahoma City if you are allowing them wide open 3-pointers. Yeah. And that was a problem in the 7-game series last year as well. Obviously, that is a major concern too. And then Cason Wallace, where the hell did this guy come from? This guy had a career night hitting threes, scoring points. There were a lot of issues. However, I will say there is one thing I'm incredibly encouraged by. The Nuggets bench scored. And I think after last year's playoff run ended, you looked at the bench and said, no one's going to be able to compete with Oklahoma City's bench. The Nuggets can compete with Oklahoma City's bench. They scored 40. And I'm not talking about some garbage points. They consistently were better than their bench, but they didn't do a good enough job covering the 3-point perimeter. And SGA, besides the points that he scored, he looked like Jokic out there in the sense that he scored at will and he passed the ball at will.
Yeah, he's a tough watch for me still because he lives on the foul line, but he is unguardable at times. And last night was an example of it. He makes one move and he's either getting the shot up, he's getting to the line, or somebody's wide open. And that's a problem. And to your point, the bench did look fine. I mean, there was a stretch there where they went a little dry. But regardless, over the course of the game, the bench was fine. They can't win with Jokic and Murray not playing well against Oklahoma City. Like, that's just the nature of that matchup. If either of those two have an off night, they can't beat OKC. Maybe you could squeak one out at home, maybe, but the reality is it's unlikely. But the bench was encouraging. Strother's now come back and become a factor again, which is nice. Bruce Brown is a guy who defends. Jonas Valanciunas gives you something they really never had as a backup to Jokic, more physical presence, certainly can rebound and give you some scoring. But it's going to come down to, in that series specifically, star versus star, all-star versus all-star. Like, your best guys have to play well. And Murray's been outstanding. I've been as critical of him as anyone the last 2 years. His first half has been amazing. I mean, he deserves every bit of the all-star thing. He just had a bad night shooting. He's 4 for 16, I think, right? I mean, they just can't win if he has that kind of night. They're not good enough to overcome that, even with the revelation that is Peyton Watson.
Just for fun, let's look at what a fully healthy starting lineup looks like for the Nuggets. Defensively, they have 3+ defenders now in their starting lineup. If they're all healthy, Gordon, Brown, and Watson. I like that a lot. I like that matchup quite a bit. And I like the Nuggets scoring off the bench. I mean, I've been saying for weeks, I think the Nuggets can not only hold their own with Oklahoma City in a playoff series, I think they can beat them. But last night certainly was not the night in which Jokic has an off night and Murray certainly had an off night. You're not going to beat them with off nights from your two best players.
It just was a little bit of a buzzkill because it's kind of this big test and they fell flat. And it's on national TV and it feeds into the narrative. You know, we had the Broncos play some games like this year. They end up winning, but when they beat the Raiders 10-7, everyone's like, oh, this team's a fraud. They're imposters. And this was a night to kind of show, you know, we're right there with them. And they weren't. They weren't. And there's no excuses. Again, I'm not going to panic about a game in February because Jokic is playing, 25 minutes. That's
Right.
roughly, he would have played 40 in a game like that. So you take him off the court for 15 minutes, you got issues, even with their new bench. So not a reason to panic, but it does show you the challenge of beating a team like OKC with clearly who's the MVP front runner in SGA. There's no way around that. Jokic is not winning it this year, not after missing that many games, and OKC is going to win the division. Jokic, even if he averages a triple-double, I just do not see him win an MVP, unfortunately.
So Jamal Murray makes his first All-Star team. I don't know who came up with the bumper sticker, Jamal Star Murray, but certainly very clever. Good on whoever wound up doing that. But to me, it is more significant that Jokic is now, for the first time in his career, playing with a guy who's made an All-Star team. Yes, DeAndre Jordan was an All-Star in the past, but that was 5-6 years prior to him coming to Denver. To me, that is significant. And quite frankly, it is shocking. With that, with the way Murray has started the season, we saw this before the start of the season. We heard other players say, you know, Jamal Murray has picked up his game, but he has also picked up his leadership. Do you believe we could be seeing maybe even a better version of playoff Jamal?
If he just plays this way, this is playoff Jamal. And so I don't know if there's another level to it. We've seen it. Certainly the bubble Jamal was like, you know, Allen Iverson meets Michael Jordan for a week and a half. But this version of Jamal, just the consistency of it, if they have that, they can win with that. Because this is playoff Jamal in the regular season. And for all the criticism, and it was a backhanded compliment, he's the best player in the NBA not to make an All-Star game. But it was warranted. If you look at his first halves, it wasn't like he was getting jobbed. I mean, last year at this time, he was averaging like 17, 18 points a game. I mean, he was not good last year, the first half of the season. This year, he got challenged after John Wallace and Ben Tenzer took over. They went to him because he, at that point, let's take the best player not to make an All-Star game out of it. Of the top 26 players in terms of average annual salary, he was the only one that hadn't been an All-Star game. Like that was the issue. It's like you're paying him to be an All-Star. You need him to be an All-Star. It's not, or just play like one. That's what I kept saying. It's like whether he's an All-Star or not, he's got to play like one when you're paying him like one. And so they challenged him. And with Jokic in Serbia over the summer, Jamal Murray took everything to heart. He was the one organizing games. He was the one getting guys at practice in the gym in Denver, Vegas. Like he was completely bought in. And I think it was out of respect for Adelman, you know, the fresh voice. They wanted to prove that they were right to hire him. But you talk about a buy-in from a guy who's been in his career for a long time. They got it from him in ways, and you see it how demonstrative he is in the court. His leadership, he's more vocal. Last year, I'll say it till the end. You watched him with Westbrook. He was uncomfortable. He didn't know where to assert himself because Westbrook takes so much oxygen out of the room. Right. And he's just not, Westbrook's not that player anymore. So here's Jamal trying to be respectful of Westbrook's resume, and it just was complicated. And I saw Jamal getting more and more meek last year, and Westbrook taking this big personality. I'm like, oh no, this is not going to work. They don't need Westbrook to be that guy. Now Jamal is. So give him credit, man. I give him full credit because last year I ripped him multiple times for his lack of play, lack of just a bunch of stuff. And now he's healthy, energetic, and leading. You couldn't ask for more in the first half from him.
Looking at Peyton Watson, every time this guy puts up a shot, cash register rings, doesn't it? I don't see
Feels
how
like
in the
it.
world. I don't see how in the world they were able to keep this guy unless they trade Cam Johnson, unless they trade Christian Brown. And quite frankly, the way Peyton Watson is playing right now, when you look at Christian Brown's deal, what was it, 5 years, $125 million? That would
Yep.
be a deal to get Peyton Watson at right now.
Oh, you can't. I don't see how you get that deal with him now. He changed agency to Clutch Sports. I mean, he's looking to get paid now. The chance to get the discount was over the summer.
I'm saying
And-
for any team
Yeah, no,
that
exactly.
wants him, the floor is $25 million.
I think so. I mean, I don't study NBA contracts like I do other sports, but he is on an all-time heater for a guy who was, you never was he ever going to average double figures in his career? Like we wondered that around here. He's a nice player,
Yeah.
but the difference is, Eric, he creates off the dribble now. He's a better version of MPJ because MPJ basically was essentially a spot up three. That was him, spot up three, and when on best nights he rebounded. He didn't create a lot to the basket. He just didn't. You watch Watson. That's why I kept telling people, and they're like, "Oh, it's a mirage. It's a mirage," and I'm like, "It's only a mirage if he's just sitting in the corner shooting threes."
Right.
I watch him every night, and at times at the top of the key, and he's spinning and diving and falling away, and I don't know, man. I mean, when he comes, there's no way Cam Johnson starts in front of him. Because players know, like that's the thing. Unless it's this very specific matchup, there's no way Adelman's going to be able to start Johnson in front of him. I mean, how could he do that? Wouldn't he lose respect in the locker room, Eric?
Yeah. As I'm watching the game, I'm thinking, I don't know if this is happening, but if it is, if Calvin Booth is watching that game last night, amongst many other games since Jokic has been out, Calvin Booth must be sitting on his couch right now, unemployed, get it, but he must be thinking to himself, Michael, if you would have listened to me and given Peyton Watson more minutes and Jalen Pickett more minutes, maybe we would both have a job right now.
Yeah, I wrote this column a couple of weeks ago. Calvin Booth, the GM, needed David Adelman, the coach. Because Calvin Booth, the scout, is a pretty good scout. He deserved to be fired for the trade deadline and the excuses with MPJ. Oh, we can't trade him. Like he earned being fired. What's crazy about both of them, the paranoia, everything became politicized with those two. The reason Malone didn't play the young players is because he didn't want to do anything to make Calvin Booth look good. Like it became the infighting was unbelievable between those two. And unfortunately for Booth, he was the one offered the extension before last season. They lowballed him.
Are you suggesting that Booth sacrificed his own career with Denver to spite Michael Malone?
Yep. He got so paranoid about it, about those two. It's just like one of those things where you get into a fight with your neighbor, and you lose perspective. Like, hey, I have a job, I have work to do. Like, no, I got to get home and chop down that tree and have it fall on their property. Like he just became both of them became so paranoid in their fight with one another, it bled into every area of the organization. And the young players became like this political pawn in all of it. Malone, at times, it felt like Eric played guys to set him up to fail. And then Boots over here, like, why don't you ever play him? And then when they didn't. It didn't work. And again, Booth could have saved his job at the beginning of the season. He could have taken a low ball deal, and he'd probably still be the general manager. And they would have taken his side. And Malone, I respect the hell out of Malone, winningest coach in Nuggets history. By the end, they were not listening to Mike Malone. If you watch the press conference at Portland last year, where he basically said, these effing guys don't watch film, they're effing liars, they don't care. I was watching that and was like, either he's getting fired or he knows he's fired, because you don't say that in a presser. And they had just tuned him out.
I am not suggesting that you are not wrong with what you just said, but I will give you a little pushback as to something that happened months and months and months earlier. When Booth said publicly about drafting and developing young guys, and here is the quote, "I want dudes that we try to develop, and it's sustainable. If it costs us a chance to win a championship this year, so be it. It's worth the investment." And here's the key line. "It's more about winning 3 titles in the next 6 years than going back to back." And Malone was more about going back to back. Certainly that is where the friction started.
Well, and you have Jokic. The whole thing, and I talked to Booth about this, not last season, the end of the season before that, whatever year that was. His whole vision was to be the Spurs. 3 and 6 years is more impressive to him than back to back. Again, the problem was you're in Jokic's prime, and you're basically in a quote saying, "We don't win it this year, big deal. We're going to win one eventually." And again, that might have worked, except you're watching everyone around you get better. And you're right, but that quote personifies, because Michael Malone, how many times did we watch him when they're up 22 in the fourth with 4 minutes and Jokic is still on the floor? Like, the guy's playing every game like it's an NFL Sunday. And then you got a GM saying, if we don't win it this year, who cares? We'll win it eventually in the next 3 years.
I don't think it was listen, I don't think it was who cares. He was trying to build and sustain long-term success. And all Malone wanted were a bunch of veterans to help win a back-to-back, which I understand. But there has to be a balance there. It's short-term thinking and long-term thinking. You're a short-term thinker. It is not an accusation, but I'm going to go by something you said. Go into the second apron if you have to. To me, it's not that simple.
Yeah,
Peyton Watson, pay him, go into the second apron. If their franchise is literally destroyed for 5 years in a row because of what happens, just the opportunity to win a title, that's worth it. I think you need to strike more of a balance there.
Yeah, I'm not big on protecting owners' money. I mean, you act like the second apron is going to prevent them from winning, like Jokic is going somewhere, like Murray's going somewhere.
No, it has to do with trades. It has to do with trades, trade exceptions, the draft, everything. It's not just money. And no one should ever accuse the Cronkies of not spending money, of not being good owners. May I remind everybody out there, over the course of 18 months, the Rams won a Super Bowl, the Avalanche won a Stanley Cup title, and then the Nuggets won an NBA championship. That is as good as it gets from any ownership group in the history of ownership groups.
Yeah, no, there's no complaint there. It's just at times with the Nuggets, it can be a little frustrating with the money issue. It can. And because
right up onto the second apron. What else do you want them to do?
They're going to the second apron. That's the whole premise of your conversation. You're protecting. You're their accountant. Like, what are you offering financial advice?
Troy. It's more. Troy. It's
why
more
do
than
I
just
care
money.
as a fan? That's the point, Eric. You're treating it like you're sitting on their offices. I understand why they do. Fans don't care. They see Jokic and the clock's ticking. So you're going to say, we didn't go over the second apron, and now Jokic is 33, and he only plays half the games. Darn it. Oh, well, but we protected ourselves because look at all these great trades we're going to make.
But
that's the
Troy,
thinking fans don't want to hear.
Troy, then don't sign Michael Porter Jr. to that contract.
That's what you say, great ownership. That was specific to the Missouri ties to ownership. That was Stan and Josh taking care of their guy.
You think they signed Michael Porter
100%,
Jr.
100%.
Because he went to Missouri?
Because he was their guy. No other player's gotten that treatment. That's at that level.
Well, under the same ownership, MPJ was traded then. How do you answer that?
Yeah, they finally realized they had to. They had to change executives to get him out of there. Booth wouldn't trade him. Josh finally realized the discontent in the locker room last year. The only way out of it was to trade MPJ. So you hire people that will trade MPJ.
Well, Josh had to sign off on it.
So he did, because he knew I was in the locker room at Game 7. He knew that run was over with that group. He would have kept Michael Porter Jr. until he was 50 if he could have. He's the only guy they could trade along with Gordon. You can't trade Gordon at the end of last season. You trade MPJ. He was their guy. They paid him a year early.
And that was but you know what? You know who didn't pay him a year early? Conley did. Booth didn't. Booth did not look at MPJ as one of his guys.
So take Booth out of it. But the only reason Conley played him is it came from upstairs. That was Josh's guy. MPJ was their guy. He was family.
I agree. So
He
why
was
did
family.
he agree to? But eventually it hit a point when you looked at that second apron. The only way to improve the team was to try and find a way to trade him. So give him credit for at least doing it. And now they're going to be saddled with Aaron Gordon's contract, 2 more full years left, and a player option. Was that a good decision?
Well, you're convinced it's terrible now. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt until we get through this season. He's never been an off-injured player. Porter Jr. was always injured. Always
He was
dating.
not
He
later
played
in
one
his.
game in high school and one game in college. He's been hurt since he was 18 years old. Gordon's never been a guy who's hurt. It just happened.
Hold on. Dating back to the end of last season.
I get it.
Hold on.
You take Cal Ripken. You act like he's Cal Ripken because he had 2 seasons where he was durable. Look at the breadth of it. When they drafted
early on, he didn't
the reason
play.
he
I'm
fell
with you
in the
on
draft
that.
because he had back surgery. He played 2 games in college because why? He was hurt. He's been hurt his entire career outside of 2 seasons.
Well, I'd go back a little bit further than 2 seasons. But early on, no, you're absolutely right. But he wasn't on the payroll at that point with a big contract. Once they gave him the contract, he played.
Once they gave him the contract, he missed the whole season with back surgery. As soon as they gave him the contract, he missed the whole season with back surgery.
They
wouldn't have paid him had they waited. They would have never paid him. They paid him, and then he missed like the whole year with back surgery.
There was no one more critical. I shouldn't say no one, you two, obviously. I was incredibly critical of Conley for giving MPJ that deal.
It was insane. It was too early, and then he got hurt. I
couldn't agree with you more. But over the last couple of years, he played more than Murray did.
No, he was durable, 100%. Yeah. But he's a one-dimensional player. He's a DH.
With that, Vance Joseph, Davis Webb looks like they've been shut out of the head coaching cycle in Vegas and Arizona. Is it starting to feel like that Vance Joseph just can't catch a break? We'll discuss that next. Everyone has their favorite barbecue spot. Mine, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. My favorites, slowly smoked ribs, smoked corned beef Reuben, smoked meatloaf with a portobello balsamic cream sauce. And don't forget about Smokin' Dave's 16-hour smoked brisket and pork with one of their 4 homemade barbecue sauces. Great sides, you bet. Barbecue beans made with pork and brisket and their southern corn bake. Man, you got to try it. Plus, they have amazing non-barbecue entrees on the menu. Go where I go, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew in North Denver.
Ferguson's Heating and Cooling is the best in Denver, and their customers agree. Ferguson's has 165 5-star Google reviews, and here's one from Betsy. Highly professional, prompt, and honest. I switched to Ferguson's when I became aware my former company was trying to sell me a whole new system I didn't need. Ferguson's is an honest, working, family-owned business that'll give you a fair price, the highest quality parts and equipment, and they always show up on time. You can trust the Ferguson family like you trust your own family. Go to fergusonsheatingandcooling.com.
Everyone has their favorite sports bar. Mine, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, DTC, and now in Parker. All their locations are everything a sports bar should be. An upscale menu with 12 different burgers, outstanding wings, and my favorite, the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. They've got every game on the NFL Sunday Ticket, MLB Extra Innings, NHL Center Ice, NBA League Pass, plus soccer, rugby, and UFC. Sportsbook, great hangout bar, great for private parties. The Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, DTC, and now in Parker. They are the sports bar.
Ever wondered where city and county fleet vehicles go when they retire? Now's your chance to find out and score big. Imagine driving away with a great deal on a reliable vehicle. For over 45 years, Roller Auction has been the trusted source for government fleet vehicles and equipment. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more, all selling to the highest bidder. Don't miss out. Visit roller.bid/hottakes to get auction updates today. Your next vehicle could be just a click away.
Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Blackhawk have another incredible promotion. They'll be giving away a pair of snowmobiles or nearly $18,000 in cash the weekend of February 20th. It's your choice what you want, the 2 snowmobiles or the cash. Earn daily entries with every locked-up jackpot or by redeeming points on your player card. You can also earn a chance to win during their daily cash drawings every 45 minutes between 10 a.m. and midnight. Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos, loose slots, great promotions, great food, and a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
And welcome back. Hot Takes, Goodman and Renck. Time now for What's Trending.
What's Trending is presented by Ferguson's Heating and Cooling. Your family should trust the Ferguson family for all your heating and cooling needs, and you'll see why they have over 165 five-star Google reviews. Make an appointment today at fergusonsheatingandcooling.com.
So I think it's fair to say Vance Joseph's not going to get a head coaching job. Davis Webb is not going to get a head coaching job. And it got me to thinking that I kind of feel badly for Vance in this sense. Can this guy honestly catch a break? When he was hired to be the head coach of the Broncos, he almost had zero input on who his coaching staff was going to be. Just to tell you a little story, when I was doing the show with Les, we had Vance on the show the day that he got hired. And it was an afternoon drive at the time. And I believe I said to Vance, what do you think about the possibility of Mike McCoy being your offensive coordinator? And he goes, I'm not totally aware of that. We come to find out that McCoy was in Elway's office chatting about the offensive coordinator position while Vance was on our show. So he didn't get a fair shake here. He got backstabbed by a bunch of coaches. Finally, after the season was over, he was able to let go of some of those guys. But now when you look at the coaching cycle, 10 openings, and he didn't get any of them. It's like he is such a great guy. He's such a good human being, and his players absolutely adore him. And you're kind of wondering, when is this guy going to catch a break?
Yeah, I mean, it looked like Arizona for a long time, Eric, was like the place. And I wonder if he didn't just decide he didn't want to go there. Because if he doesn't have confidence in Kyler Murray, then that's a dead-end job. And it might be anyway, frankly, because of the strength of the division. And he knows he's probably only get one more chance at this. So I'm not convinced. I haven't heard this from him. It's not sourced. But did he tell Arizona? And maybe they didn't want him either. I'm just saying it became very clear that was going to be like his fallback option. And then once that was out, I thought the Raiders were a realistic chance at times, but very clearly Tom Brady, they were focusing on offensive minds. That's what hurts him more than anything. But it's embarrassing that the NHL and hiring of 10 new coaches has one minority coach in Robert Saleh. Like when most, so many of the players are African-American players, to then have one minority coach. Flores still can't get a job. You want to take about a guy who's earned the right to have another job. It's Brian Flores or Vance.
No, he
Johnson.
doesn't. No, he
Vance
doesn't.
Joseph. Both those do.
No, Brian Flores deserves zero opportunity to get a head coaching job. And I'll tell you why. He undermined his own GM who was there 3 years before he was and wanted to push him out, making personnel decisions and draft decisions. That's why Brian Flores is not being hired. If you were a GM and you knew this guy's history, would you want to hire a guy who tried to undermine his own GM, who had been there as the GM 3 years prior? You want to roll the dice on a guy like that?
Well, people did with Josh McDaniels. That's my point. Like they're held to a different standard.
Josh wasn't trying to undermine anybody. He just took over.
Yeah, he's Captain Sabotage. He wants to ruin the whole organization. I'm going to take the Colts job and let everyone come over. No, I'm not going to take it. It's all these families, they're moved, they're out of work. I mean, that's why I'm saying it just feels like they're getting held to a different standard. Flores deserved to be fired, and you would reproach him with kid gloves. I get it. But he never gets another chance. When I see, like, Mike McCarthy, he gets another chance. Okay, his resume. But is Kevin Stefanski all that? Like, people talk about Kevin Stefanski like he's one good season away from going to Canton. I'm like, what has he done in Cleveland the last few years? Like, when does that matter? If I hear one more report, NFL Coach of the Year, oh, my God. Like, come on now. Like, he has been awful in Cleveland, and he hasn't developed quarterbacks. And he couldn't keep Baker Mayfield. Like, there's a number of things on his resume where I'd be like, is this guy all that? And then you look at the turmoil, and that's anyway. But Vance's issue is, to you ask, is it he can't catch a break? I do wonder when he's in these meetings, and I don't know all the facts. I know some of them at different times. But I know when you're a defensive coach bidding for these jobs, Eric, one of the main questions are who you bring in to run your offense. Because obviously they trust he's going to figure out the defense. Who are you bringing to run your offense? And sometimes maybe that isn't a satisfying answer. I don't know that. But that's holding him back, I think, because when you look at his time in Denver, and you're right, he got absolutely screwed in Denver. He wasn't ready. He would admit he was drinking out of a fire hose. But who's going to run your offense? Because you're not winning an NFL title as a defensive team. Like, you're not. You can get good, but you're not going to win it if you don't have a functional offense. So do you think that's the reason, maybe, beyond the fact that, retreads get circled through all the time? But why do you believe he's not getting a fair shot? For me, it goes back to, NFL gives the old boys network a little bit that still exists, and the fact that you worry who's going to run his offense. I think that, to me, is a more legitimate concern in an interview process than anything else at this point.
Okay, Vance Joseph is a defensive guy. Let's just, for fun, take a look at the list of first-time head coaches. Not guys like Mike McCarthy. He's not a first-time head coach. Harbaugh is not a first-time head coach. I'm talking about guys getting a job for the first time, whether they were coordinator or something lower than that. Over the last 2 years, 4 jobs were filled by offensive-minded head coaches and 2 on defense. Okay? That's this year. Last year, 5 first-time head coaches, 4 offensive-minded head coaches, and 1 was on defense. The league is leaning towards offense, but I would always lean towards an offensive-minded head coach for this reason. If you're a defensive-minded guy and you hire a hotshot offensive coordinator, he's gone in a couple of years if he has success. And you want that continuity with that quarterback because that relationship is so important. That is a disadvantage, clearly, for Vance Joseph. But I want to circle back here. You are a GM of a team, and you look at Brian Flores, knowing he undermined his own GM through multiple reports where he looked at his GM Greer and said, I want to be making the decisions for the draft or have final say. I want to have the final decisions on the free agency situation. Knowing he did that to Greer, you want to do that potentially to yourself? Is that worth it to you? Is it worth it to you?
Greer got fired. He wasn't good at his job either. You're acting like he undermined, the executive of the year. He didn't. I'm not defending Brian Flores' actions in that sense. I'm just saying a number of these coaches get a second chance with way less record, way less on their resume, and have not proven themselves again as assistants. And it's like, look at, you really think Matt LaFleur's brother is that ready to be a head coach?
Nope.
Anyone that's brushed up against Sean McVay or had Starbucks with him has gotten a head coaching job in the last 2 years. That's more of my issue, Eric. I'm not defending Flores' action. I couldn't stand how he did that stuff with especially how he tried to undermine Tua's career. That hurts him more than anything. It's because he literally went out of his way to sabotage his relationship with his quarterback. That hurts him, and that has to be addressed in any interview. Josh McDaniels got hired again after literally trying to destroy a franchise here and flunking out of a job in Indianapolis. That's my point, is like these different standards for different people. But any guy that's had coffee with Sean McVay gets a job. Like Sean McVay, he's got a forest. Bill Belichick doesn't even have a branch for a coaching tree. Anybody that has Sean McVay on their speed dial, I'm surprised Peter Schrager from ESPN hasn't got a coaching job at this point. He has him on his podcast all the time. I just assume Peter's going to be the head coach at some point.
Right. Well, here, let's take this a step further. A lot of people will say, and you and I had this conversation, I think it was last week, because the Broncos made it to the AFC Championship game, that hurt Vance. Would you agree?
100%.
I don't agree at all. And here's the reason why. The Rams and the Seahawks both played in the NFC Championship game, and 2 of their assistants got jobs. Why?
They're offensive coaches.
Oh, well, that is a fair point. But at the end of the day, it didn't hurt them because they played in an NFC Championship game. That's why I'm saying I don't think you can't argue that it hurt Vance that he wasn't able to go through a full interview process because it didn't hurt the other guys. Now, when you layer it with their offensive coaches for what we just spelled out, that is the perfect storm. And, oh, by the way, looking at Sean McVay, something else to consider, and this might help Davis Webb as well. The 4 guys who are currently coaching in the NFL that learned at the feet of Sean McVay, LaFleur, O'Donnell, and who am I missing? I'm missing somebody.
O'Connell. Yeah, I don't know.
It's
Five of them.
and Liam Cohen.
Liam Cohen.
You know how many of those guys called plays under McVay? 0. None of them did.
Cohen called him in Tampa Bay, though.
I understand that, but he didn't call them under McVay, is what I'm saying. And guys who came directly from McVay did not call plays. All I'm suggesting is that is the template now for Davis Webb, and you wrote a terrific column about it. Yeah, I think that Davis Webb should be calling plays for a number of reasons in everything that you laid out in that column. But it's not 100% necessary to do it to not only get a head coaching job, but to be successful. I think it is fair to say that Matt LaFleur's been successful, Liam Cohen's been successful early on, and O'Donnell has been successful at times.
O'Connell, yeah.
O'Connell.
Yeah, they all have. And real quick point on Vance, because everyone asked me the same, how could Robert Saleh get a job and Vance doesn't? Because very similar, where Saleh's a defensive guy, and he was a disaster. I don't care what any NFL national guy tells me. Saleh was a disaster in New York. I don't care. It was
Who
a
hasn't
disaster.
been a disaster with the Jets?
No, but I'm just saying, everyone's like, oh, he was. No, he wasn't. He wasn't. But he was strapped with no quarterback, and then the Aaron Rodgers drama, trying to bring on Hackett. We see how that works. But why did he get a job and Vance didn't? And every person I asked in the NFL I trust is like, he can put a great staff together. And he got Brian Daboll to be his offensive coordinator. Right. And whether I think Daboll could be a head coach or not, doesn't matter. Daboll's a proven offensive coordinator who worked with Josh Allen, who you could look at and say with some certainty, like, this guy should make Cam Ward better. Yeah. That's what's hurting Vance. I got to find this out. As the more we talk about it, I become more curious. But is that it? Like, what is his answer at OC? What is that? But to your point on Davis Webb, he doesn't have to call plays to get a head coaching job. He nearly did here I thought he was going to get the Raiders job. There was a point it felt like he was going to get the Raiders job. Yeah. And Kubiak takes it, and fingers crossed it works out for him. Because even under Tom Brady, the Raiders have been a mess. It's been a mess. And it's a tough place to win. But you got Mendoza, you got Bowers, you got Genty. At least you got a starting point as an offensive-minded head coach. But with Davis Webb, the reason I wrote the column is Sean Payton, it was very reflective at the end of the season about his own play calling. Can he still drive in the rain? Is he still as bold? Is he getting stuff done as quickly? And everyone, I got pushback. I was surprised how much pushback I got from fans of this offense is good enough to win a championship. And I'm like, are they? When they were their fourth most 3-and-outs this year, third most 3-and-outs the year before. When it got to the final 8, Eric, Broncos have been shut out 19 quarters this season, the most of any team in the final 8. And oh, by the way, in their two playoff losses, they've scored 1 touchdown the last 2 years. Right. And Sean Payton hasn't ranked inside the top 10 in yards and points since Drew Brees. That's my point. It's not a small sample size at this point. And Sean Payton can still be part of the game plan. He can still dial up a game plan. It's not like, oh my God, he's useless and the game's passing by. I'm just saying, you've got this resource right here in Webb. It's not a young man's game, but it's a younger man's game, if you will.
For as much as Woody Johnson, the owner of the Jets, is a hot mess as an owner, by looking at the way his organization has performed, I'll give him credit for one thing. He's not shy about minority hires. Saleh, minority hire. Aaron Glenn, but he didn't last long. Aaron Glenn, minority hire. He's probably going to be fired after this season. Maybe that's a job Vance Joseph gets. I wouldn't want that job, but the point in all of this is that, with Vance Joseph, it is unfortunate that he is. I don't want to say he's getting a bad rap necessarily. I mean, how do you not seriously consider the NFL Assistant Coach of the Year who put together a fantastic defense? I feel badly for him, and I have very little doubt through some of the people that I talked to. Certainly Vance wants a head coaching job, but he would jump at that head coaching job. And looking at the Jets, when you become the new head coach, they give you 2 pieces of paper, a contract and a change of address slip, because you're going to need that change of address card because you're going to be fired less than 2 years later, or maybe in 2 years.
Well, the one advantage that he'd know Darren Muji, the GM there, if he's still the GM after this year. I think we all agree Glenn's gone. I mean, Glenn had to blow out his entire coaching staff after 1 year. That's to my point of well, some of these hires are made, or who are you coaches you bringing with? Aaron Glenn had earned the opportunity to be a head coach, but his staff clearly wasn't right, or they didn't fit with him. When you're blowing out your entire staff after 1 year, I mean, that tells me you got the wrong head coach. But if he goes there with Muji and they have a bunch of picks coming and they get a quarterback, now you have a shot. And maybe that's it. But you're right. And I forgot to even mention that. I'm glad you did. Assistant coach of the year, I get it's Pro Football Writers, but that's a respected organization of people who cover it every day. Every day. And they tap this guy as their assistant coach of the year. And as you mentioned earlier, players love Vance Joseph because of his humility, and he won't throw guys under the bus. He won't. And he could have gotten him fired after the 70-point game at at Miami.
Yeah.
And he refused to. And every guy I talked to said that was a turning point in a relationship where this coach could have thrown us all out. And he just, hey, it's on me. The scheme stunk. We got to fix it. We're going to do more of what I do, but I put you in position to fail. It was me. And that was when guys are like, holy crap, if he's willing to take these shots for us, then we're going to do anything for him. And they virtually have since then.
And while it's completely conjecture on my part, looking at his resume, it adds up with what I'm about to say. I'll give you a big reason why Davis Webb was not hired in this coaching cycle. He's been a coach in the NFL so long, and being a coach in the NFL for a while, at the very least, whether you're good or not, you have built relationships with other coaches that if you get a head coaching job, you know who you want to bring in. He hasn't been around long enough to have those relationships to fill a secondary, coaching position, or who's going to be his offensive line coach. I don't even think he has those connections. He needed to wait for sure another year. With Kubiak, I probably could call his dad and fill out an entire coaching staff if he wanted to.
Kubiak's with his he'll be with his sixth team in 6 years.
And
insane. But that's how you meet a lot of people.
That's right. And so when he sat down with the Raiders owner and when he sat down with Brady and he was asked who's going to be on your coaching staff, I'm sure he had a long list of guys.
Yeah.
I am guessing.
And that does matter. I mean, we kind of we roll eyes with that, but that does matter. And because people criticize Sean Payton for a lot of things, he puts together a hell of a coaching staff. I mean, you look every year, his staff gets rated. Some guys want to leave, I get it, but he puts together a quality coaching staff. And if you want to have, I just go back to Hackett. Every guy on that staff, other than Ejiro Evero, was miscast. Literally every guy on his staff was miscast. So It matters. A coaching staff does matter.
That's going to do it for us. Hot Takes, Goodman and Renck. Make it the best possible day you can.